But some of you might be wondering, how does somebody get into what we call bushcraft or survival, any of those things? And I imagine for everyone it's considerably different. For me, my connection to nature came living in Alabama, which, funny enough, is actually where I'm at right now. I was 11 years old, and I was sent to go live with my biological father, who I didn't really know at that point. I'd known him earlier, but I didn't really know him at all. I'd been taken away from him and kept away and just told all manner of things, but none of that's really relevant to this story. So I was sent to Alabama to go live with my biological father, and I was saying his dad felt that he should build a church, and I imagine he met someone in one of the other few churches, and it's a church that calls itself Church of God. To them, as with many other ones, they are the only people going to heaven, and not because they're Christian, not because they believe in the Christian God, but because of their belief and their following of the Bible and how they follow it. Essentially, it's Amish with allowances to use what the Amish would call worldly things, electricity and power and vehicles, things of the sort. But other than using worldly technology, we were not allowed to associate with anyone or anything outside of the church. And the church that I was introduced to is on a mountain here in Alabama, very small place, not a lot of people, not a lot to do, and my father decided to homeschool me. It was also part of the church is, didn't want kids going to school to be introduced to worldly things and sin or whatever. As a result, at 11 years old, I started homeschooling and working, laying tile, and going to church twice on Sunday, once on Wednesday, and a few times a year going to revivals where only these specific churches would congregate in a few places around the country, and they would have 3 church services a day for a week. But a result of not being allowed to do or associate with anything, no TV, no books, no radio, no roller skating rinks, no bowling alleys, nothing where we might be introduced to anything they consider part of the sinly world, the world full of sin. But we lived on that mountain, and we lived on 15 acres that backed up to what felt like an infinite wilderness behind me. I really couldn't tell you how much it was, but it was and still is a lot of just wilderness. So I just spent most of my free time, pretty much all of it, wandering around in that wilderness, just exploring. Didn't really know what I was doing, at first. A lot of it was just luck. Learned that I have a natural ability to navigate myself through woods without any assistance, any aids, any maps, anything at all, really. I'm not even certain exactly when I was told that, moss only grows on the north side of the trees, you know where north is. But nobody explained to me that it doesn't matter if you know where north is if you don't know what is north. Like, what is north of you? What is south of you? Which direction do you actually need to go? Knowing directions doesn't help if you don't know what is where. It's like right now where I'm at. If I started walking north, I don't know how far I'd have to go before I found something. The nearest access to anything is south of me. About 30 miles south of me is Interstate 20 and a few small towns. North, I don't know, maybe 60, 80, 100 miles. Again, this is the point of knowing. Like, you got to know where what is around you. Knowing your cardinal directions is pointless if you don't know what's in those directions. That brings me back to, I didn't know any of this, but I never got lost. The entire concept of even being lost in the woods wasn't something that ever crossed my mind. I never felt lost. There may have been a few times where I was like, oh, I'm a little uncertain of where I'm at, but I feel confident that this is the direction to go home. And I always made it and never got lost. Back in those woods was a huge bluff that I would free solo climb just all the time. And there was never any question of it. These are the benefits of the lifestyle that I was living. I had a biological father who, I don't know if he didn't really care or just trusted that his wife was taking care of things, but his wife spent 22 years of her early ages, from like 3 to 25, or I don't know, but around 22 years, living in a very, very small village in Belize. Couldn't tell you the name of it. But as a result, she had a very different understanding of what children are capable of and how well they can survive different areas and what they are. Now, there was the general rule of don't go further than we can call you, than you can hear us yell for you. I did that every single day. Don't know if they ever called for me, but I always came back. Never stayed out after dark without it being prior knowledge. But it didn't take too long of being out there that I just started to question, how did people do this? How did they live out here? I just started wondering things. We had a garden, fairly large garden, and my dad would go out and hunt food, and he would bring the deer home, and I would help him process them, and I didn't know where he was getting them or any of that, but there was something very, very natural and wonderful about most of your food coming from the ground and the forest around you. And then I turned 12, and for my 12th birthday I was given a 760 pump, 20 gauge Remington 760 Pump Master shotgun, and told that I was now old enough to be the one to go harvest the deer. And my dad took me out to a friend's property. I'd never known where this was happening or what was going on, but he took me out to a friend's property and put me up in a tree house, not a tree stand. This is a full-on tree house with an actual lazy boy recliner inside it. View window from the tree house blind stared right at a salt block in the middle of a field. And I only went out there once. It was a very foggy morning, and I just sat there in that recliner, holding my shotgun, looking at that salt block. And all I could think was everything about this felt wrong to me. It just didn't feel right that I'm about to take a life to sustain me that I know absolutely nothing about. I don't know how many are around. I don't know how old it is. I don't know. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about animals other than I knew what a deer looked like. And that's, was our main source of red meat, was venison. While sitting there staring at that salt block, I watched a deer walk up to it. And I just couldn't do it, but also I was afraid of getting in trouble for not at least trying while I was out there. So I took a shot into the air to scare it off, told my dad I missed. Things came to me instinctually because I didn't know that there was another way. And the instinct of it, tapping into those memories, those things that are inside every single human on this planet, these things that we have all forgotten because we've become so complacent and so comforted in our modern life that we forget what we're truly capable of and what we know. After that day in the woods, I decided to take up archery. To me, that felt fair. Felt like a fair way to harvest protein from the forest. And taking up archery meant a whole lot of other things, but that was the starting, the defining moment was sitting in that tree house with that shotgun, staring at that salt block. It's a defining moment that led me to a higher connection with the lands around me and all of the life that exists there.